Megatron!
The sound of Soundwave's deep and booming voice called to his leader as the mighty Decepticon tyrant stared upon a hologram of the universe in search of Autobots. With burning red optics, he stared down its countless stars and paths before turning to face his commanding officer in a tense and firm expression.
Soundwave, report. Tell me you have found something of note.
Megatron asked, as the auto-tuned Decepticon walked in with both a Decepticon field officer named Barricade, as well as Shockwave.
We have acquired an Autobot escapee. Could be used for intel.
Soundwave replied, as he chucked a tiny and injured Autobot forwards to the ground. This bot was donned in reds and blues, a large head and dopey-looking face. This captured soul was the Autobot scout, Gears. Looking up in fear, Gears glared upon Megatron before scooting away. As he did this, Soundwave approached and kicked the little Autobot forwards, causing him intense pain.
No! Please! I know nothing!
Gears begged as Megatron reached down and grabbed him by the head.
Where is Optimus Prime?
The leader of the Decepticons barked as he began to squeeze Gears' head.
We saw the empty pods from the Ark! He's out there with the Allspark somewhere! Tell us, where is he?
Megatron demanded as Gears began to panic.
My name is Gears, scout of the Autobot Resistance. I am forbidden to go!
Before Gears could finish, Soundwave deployed a cabled wire from out of his chest side and jabbed it into Gears' back, proceeding to inject strands of cables and slithering parts into his Autobot system.
Let me ask again. Where is Optimus Prime?
Megatron questioned as Gears began to shake in pain.
My name is Gears, scout of the...
The Autobot shouted in pain again as Soundwave rammed several more cables into his body, leaving the Autobot in a world of agony.
Detecting signal. Manually scrambled. Detecting trail. Autobots B-127 RC. Wheeljack. Signal trail deciphered. 3 Autobots located. No Prime. Rather, closest allies.
Soundwave stated, before retracting his cables and leaving Gears to fall to the floor by Megatron's hands.
Patsy Autobots! Always trying so hard, yet failing all the same.
Megatron stated, as Gears began to quietly mutter the words.
No. Shockwave! You may have him now. Do try to keep the screaming to a minimum.
Megatron went on, as Shockwave reached down and took Gears by the leg, proceeding to drag him away.
Fear not, Lord Megatron. The experiments will be behind closed doors. Rather, painful experiments.
The large Decepticon said, as Gears began to struggle and claw at the Nemesis' ground floor.
No!
Gears cried before the door to the main control room sealed, leaving Barricade the wince with pity, and for Soundwave, to stand and await command.
What is our next course of action, Lord Megatron?
The Decepticon questioned, as Megatron began to think.
Send out Blitzwing and Reflector. Have them scout the area and rip the information from those Autobots by force. Optimus will not get away. The Allspark, it will be ours.
The tyrant boasted, leaving Soundwave and Barricade to salute.
As you wish, Lord Megatron.
The Decepticon commander boasted, before turning and leaving the room with Barricade close by. Journeys ahead. More than meets the eye. An unofficial crossover. Chapter 3. Blitzing and Winging It. Written and narrated by T.S. ProArt. Slowly opening his optics, Optimus blinked once and then twice before focusing his sight upon a yellow light above his face. Wincing to this, the leader of the Autobots attempted to sit upright, but immediately felt a pair of hands gently pushing him back down.
Hey, easy, boss.
Wheeljack cautiously spoke, as Prime's sight fully adjusted. Upon this, the Autobot leader was able to make out the sight of an old shed interior, one that looked to have once been used for manufacturing cars and or fixing them. Yellow morning light shone in through a large rectangular window sphere above, while Prime lay rested on an extended up version of the trailer he rode upon. Hey, good morning, big guy. Glad to see you among the living, Voight stated, as him, Cot, and Knock had been standing and working upon his chess piece interior.
What happened? Did I faint?
Optimus questioned, as Void deactivated his battle mask, which he had been using in place of a welding visor. Kind of. We're at the junkyard, if you're curious. You passed out a few minutes before we arrived. I thought we were going to lose you, Voight said, as he carefully welded 2 chunks of metal back into place.
I see. Where are my Autobots?
Prime then asked, leaving both Knock and Void to smirk. Outside within the daylight, Jay, Joby, Elijah, and Povnu were playing on an old basketball court against RC, Bumblebee, and Jazz, who were neck and neck on winning for their side. Sitting on a nearby bench was Jida with a bouncy Jane in her lap, alongside Vivian and Florence, who watched the match go on. Raising her camera up, the Lavin Wolf smiled and then took a quick photo before resting the item back down her lap. Hey, how's the whole photography life treating you, hun? It's been a while since I've seen you, Jida asked as she reared her arm around and embraced the Lavin Wolf. Oh, well, I'm trying to get my place in the front cover of our school. Other than that, I've been alright, Florence replied as she smiled upon Jida Woods. How's Jane been? It looks like she hasn't aged a day. Smiling and then looking down at her daughter, Jida held the young baby close and then kissed her on her cube head. Oh, she's just fine. Still a toddler for Lord knows how long, but I'm not complaining though, 'cause she's just too cute, Jida replied as Jane began to coo and reach for Florence. Oh, I think she likes you. You want to hold her? The musician quietly questioned, leaving the wolf to stare upon the baby, then halt. As she did, flashes of Lotus appeared in her head, causing her to stifle a tad. Sure. She then agreed, upon reminding herself that the baby wasn't him. Reaching out her paws, Florence held the baby within her arms, and oddly enough, found herself smiling. Whew, man! You Earthlings created quite the sport here. When that old Bumblebee here has seemed the master, the Autobot scout said as he dribbled the basketball in between his legs. Not if I have anything to say about it, Bumblebee, Joby called with a smirk as she tried to knock the ball away, but the Autobot was quick and took an immediate leap with it in hand. He shoots, the scout called, being followed up with a slam dunk that tore down the entire hoop. He scores! Sting like a friggin' bee! Bumblebee exclaimed before falling down in a hard, laughing manner. To this, everyone chuckled in glee as they all ran over to help the Autobot up. Ha! Thank goodness this place is abandoned. How would we explain that one? Elijah asked while looking to the damage as RC helped Bumblebee stand back to his feet. I don't think there's insurance that covers Cybertronian damages, Povnu stated in a chuckling mood as Jay, who had been without a shirt, stretched and sighed. Good game. Maybe you guys can teach that to your buddies one day. I told you basketball's fun. Even if we're at the disadvantage. The young spark expressed with glee as he warped his sweater back over his body, as Elijah gave him and everyone else a high five. Not bad. Not bad, not bad, not bad at all. Jazz boomed with glee as he did the same with his Autobot team. Bad, 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 and all bad scrap! Wheeljack suddenly called from the shed, getting everyone to turn and quickly make their way inside. Huh? Hey! What's wrong? Jida asked with a broken warp, causing her to gasp, stumble, and then get caught by Jay, who gently helped her stand back upright.
We need a power converter! The tool I'm using can't get a full charge unless I have a constant gear flow. Without it, Prime's parts won't be able to fully heal, making his bedridden state all the longer.
The Autobot mechanic groaned as Void, Knock, and Cot all sat up from the Autobot's body with sweating faces. Power converter? Like those things we use with electrical wiring and junk? Florence asked as Wheeljack turned with tired optics. As he did this, the Lavin Wolf gently gave Jida her baby back as the Autobot began to rant on.
Yeah, sure, whatever that may be. Would any of you Earthlings happen to know where one could be at? It's like, it could be anything, really, just something.
Wheeljack questioned as he held onto a gun-looking device that had now been powered off. I mean, I can't think of anything. Joey said, crossing her arms, while now wearing shorts, a red tan sweater, and a Martian face designed tank top. Same here. I can't really think of anything at the top of my head. Jay stated, when Elijah suddenly spoke. I do. When I escaped Notorio's facility, there were tons of them in the back outer sector. The place has been abandoned since my escape, so there's a 50-50 chance that one could still be functional. Elijah revealed as he looked to the side and thought. Eli, are you sure? Joby asked as she approached and rested her hand upon his shoulder. Yeah. My demons are just memories at the end of the day. Besides, Prime isn't looking too hot. I can handle it. Elijah assured as he shoved his hands into his jean pockets. It's a bit of a ways off, so we may need some kind of lift if your warping and portal stuff is still buggy. The kinetic being suggested while eyeing the Nova Suns down. I can take them. I've been itching to explore this world a little bit more. Bumblebee exclaimed as he spun and transformed into his vehicle form. Who outside of Elijah wants to tag along with everyone's favorite scout? The little Autobot asked as he opened all 4 of his doors. I'll go with him. You know, keep him out of trouble. Joby stated as she patted the side of Elijah's arm before stepping inside of Bumblebee. We'll go too. I had a skirmish a while back there, and I know the layout pretty well. Also, Florence could use some photos. At a safe distance, of course. Jay added, as he and Lavin Wolf stood beside the road bug. You guys sure? Void asked from afar. Don't worry, Orb Guy. I'll make sure we get back safe. You can trust me on that front. Bumblebee boasted as Jay, Florence, and Elijah took their seats. Elijah in the passenger front, with everyone else in the back. Okay. Be safe, guys. I trust you, B. Make sure my boy doesn't get hurt. Jida stated with a point as Bumblebee revved his little engine. Miss Woods, count me as their guardian. The little Autobot called before turning and driving out of the shed, leaving a trail of dust in his wake. Notorio's old house of horrors. I can't say I'm surprised one would be there. Puffy stated as she crossed her arms and thought. Who's Notorio? RC then asked as she watched Bumblebee disappear into a dust cloud of his own making. Freak scientist obsessed with artificial life. Eats his own skin and even created an evil doppelganger of myself. It was like Metal Sonic, but really uncool. Void briefly explained while turning back to helping Optimus. Oh. Wait, what's a Metal Sonic? The pink Autobot responded, leaving Jaya to speak up. Notorio has been missing for a good while since our last encounter. He's a real freak show of a human being. The musician expressed with disdain as she turned her sights upon Prime, who winced and did his best to stay on line.
Don't worry, Optimus. You'll be back and functioning properly soon. Hopefully.
Wheeljack assured as a cold silence filled the room. Eli, are you certain about this? I mean, you've told me many times that... Joby worriedly questioned as Bumblebee drove their group down an empty dirt road, passing by older buildings long since forgotten. This had been through what had essentially become Aurora's wastelands, the areas unsalvageable after the battle for Aurora. I'm alright, Plum. My past doesn't have a leash on me as it used to. My goal in life is to help people, and Optimus is in some serious need of it. The scruffy-faced Kinetic explained, while Florence began to take photos of the rubble. I take it that you had some serious history with this Notorio fella. I won't indulge, but my sensors are telling me you're a bit nervous. Would you like to go back, Eli? Or are you really positive on this one? Bumblebee asked, as they all approached a large set of gray buildings that had once looked to be a factory. The city of Aurora was now a few miles off in the distance, meaning nobody would be here. Before them, a large metal gate sat with a sign exclaiming the words, "Do not enter." Positive, the Kinetic assured, as the Wolf spoke up. Oh, we're locked out. That's unfortunate. She sadly called from the back, but everyone else, even Bumblebee, had other ideas. You see, if you just ignore the two words, "do not," then it means enter. Out of sight, out of mind, right? The scout asked, making Florence look down to his radio speaker with flattening ears and an annoyed face. Coming out from the side of Bumblebee's front hood, emerged a smaller version of his arm cannon, which he took aim and shot with, destroying the fence and creating a passageway of torn open shrapnel. See, now it's just asking us to enter. B boasted with an audible sarcasm to his voice, as he then slowly drove in and passed the building with a withering sign. The sign was designed in greens and whites, calling this area Notorio Incorporated. Pulling up on a large mass of mechanical rubble, Bumblebee transformed and gently led his passengers out. One by one, they all stepped upon gravel grounds and gazed at the abandoned factories around them. Walls had shattered, windows destroyed, while old large machines and devices lay as though they have been halted in time. It was an eerie sight to behold, but one that nobody cared to indulge in. Just like it was yesterday, Eli mumbled as everyone approached some of the rubble, all while Florence began to take photos. Excuse me, Mr. Bumblebee. Would it be okay if I took a photo of you properly this time? The flash is off, I promise. The Wolf asked, getting the scout to turn and smile down upon her. Sure, thanks for the heads up this time. The little bot replied with glee as he gave a thumbs up. Wagging her tail, Florence raised her camera up and prepared to take the photo. Say cheese! After the sound of the camera shuddered, Bumblebee blinked and then placed his hands upon his hips with a curious expression. Cheese? He asked in confusion as Elijah suddenly spoke up. Found one. Seems like it's still got some juice. To this, the couple and Bumblebee turned and made their way over, getting alongside a crouching Joby and Elijah. The two had found an old clawed metal arm and hand of some kind, one that had been pulsating green with an energy cylinder within. Seems like the power converter is going to have to be removed carefully. She's a bit more active than I thought she would be. Elijah suddenly realized as he charged his kinetic energy to his hands. You may want to step back. This could be a bit explosive. The kinetic went on, leaving Joby, Jay, and Florence to back up, as well for Bumblebee to stand in front of them in a protective manner. Be careful, Joby said with concern, as Elijah smirked with blue eyes and began to reach forwards. With my energy, it shouldn't be too much of a biggie. Just gotta snag this little bugger right here. Quickly reaching his hand out, Elijah snagged the converter and pulled it out with no issue. Smirking, he looked at the palm-sized, green glowing item in his hand and spoke aloud in triumph. Hello, Mama. About a mile off from the old facility, the A&N crew all stood on the side of the road next to their purple, white-striped, green glass-tinted news van, with the words, Aurora News Network, printed on its side. With her microphone held close to her lips, Winona spoke, with Andy recording as per standard. Inside the van and sitting upon its open side door floor, Cece scrolled through her phone, while Francine made sure they were on air and not cutting out. We are still unaware of the exact conditions from last night's accident, but here at A&N, hope that Cameron makes a speedy recovery and that he makes it back to the road sooner rather than later. This has been Winona Specs. Back to you, Johnny. The field reporter finished with a raise of 2 fingers to her head and then pulled an odd farewell salute. And cut. Solid as always, Andy stated as they took off their cap and wiped their sweating brow. Thanks, Andy. This weather is killing me. Does my makeup look alright, or is it melting again? Winona asked, as both her and Andy began marching their way back to the van. You look fine. It's all fine, the camera operator assured as they held their camera down at their side while giving a gentle yawn. Another boring day, another boring report with the same old yaps. Come on, Winnie. You gotta step up your performance just a little bit, Francine tiredly expressed as she leaned back in her passenger seat. I think I'm perfectly fine just the way I've been. And don't call me Winnie, Winona replied as both her and Andy took a seat beside Cece, who was looking rather intent down on her phone. Hey, C, you alright? Andy asked, getting the upside-down face woman to turn and hold her phone out in a cold sweat. Look! The military base outside of Aurora got raided. Reports are saying that 2 bombs went off from above. It's also saying a jet was stolen, Cece explained, getting everyone to turn with curiosity. What? You're kidding? Winona asked as she took the phone and looked at the report. And of course the other news network got to it first, she groaned while Andy raised an eyebrow. How on God's green earth was someone able to steal a jet? They asked as Cece took back her phone. Beats me, but it's very concerning. That's a major security breach on our city's end, she exclaimed in a worried tone, while Francine just rolled her eyes and kicked her legs up on the dashboard. Well, that's just... Winona went to speak, but was suddenly halted by the sight and sound of a small green explosion erupting from afar, all the way to the old Notorio facility. Whoa! Cece called, as her, Winona, and Andy stood, leaving Francine in the glare out the window. Jesus Christ! Andy called with surprise, while Winona stared on ahead, as the smoke billowed and green energy faded. With this, a smile began to grow on her face, before beginning to move. Andy, Cece, buckle up and ready the cameras. Francine, call the heads, Winona suddenly commanded as she turned and began to make her way to the driver's side door. What Seriously? We're supposed to get off at noon!" Andy exclaimed as Cece was quick to follow orders. In my field of work, the term "get off" means getting off our asses and getting the scoop first. Now buckle up. Winona called with a smirk that left Francine cracking a tiny smile. "Fine," Andy said as they got inside and shut the door behind themselves. Ugh, man. Why was that so delayed? Elijah asked as he brushed off some ash off his body, while Bumblebee held Jay, Florence, and Joby within his arms, having turned his back from the explosion. "Primus, you guys alright?" The little scout asked as he then let go in gasping breaths. We're fine. Elijah?" Jay asked with a follow-up cough as the scruffy-faced man turned and gave the thumbs up. "All good. Got the power converter in hand," he assured while flipping the green capsule up and catching it within his free hand. "Oh, thank goodness. I was worried that you were..." Joby began as the sound of a car began to pull up from afar. "Uh-oh," Florence nervously spoke while tucking her tail in between her legs. "That's, not good," Elijah added as he quickly pocketed the converter into his pants. "B, hide!" Jay stated with a whirl towards the Autobot, causing him to nod and quickly transform. "Great. Guess that explosion drew in some attention," Joey said as she took a protective step in front of her brother and his friend. "Hope it ain't the police. Those guys get on my nerves." Elijah joined in as he too stood guard in front of the kids. As the smoke began to clear, the sounds of doors closing and footsteps upon gravel was heard, all up till the mysterious people revealed themselves, being the A&N crew. Upon setting their sights on Joby, Elijah, Jay, and Florence, Winona gasped in shock and nearly dropped her microphone in realization. "Oh, it's Winona?" Joby stated as she recognized the woman who had been their best form of intel when it came to city activity. "Wait, that Winona? The one that's on the news every night?" Jay asked as he and Florence stepped out from behind Joby and eyed the news crew, where Winona was staring with wide eyes. "Oh boy," Cece said with a smirk as Andy took in a breath, with Francine preparing for the inevitable fangirl that was about to be unleashed. Joby Jida's daughter! Jay Voigtson! Whoa, wow, holy crap!" Winona babbled in awe as she gently lowered Andy's camera. What a surprise!" The field reporter went on as they all approached the Sparks and their friends. "Winona Specs, correct?" Joby asked while reaching a hand out. Yes, that's me. Oh my god, they know my name," Winona expressed and whispered before shaking Joby's hand. "Hello," Jay greeted as he smiled up to the news crew, leaving Cece and Andy to smile and wave back. "A&N? What brings you guys out here?" Elijah questioned as Winona continued to shake Joby's hand for a long duration of time, before realizing the awkward stare the Spark was giving. "Oh, we were reporting upon a crash down the road. We were packing up and saw a big explosion. What are you all doing, actually?" The field reporter asked as she gazed upon two of Aurora's greatest protectors. "We're, Joey began, trying to think of what to say. "We're teaching Jay here how to drive. Kid just turned 16, so we wanted to give him some pointers." Elijah lied through his teeth while wrapping his muscular arm around Jay. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Right, Jay?" Joby joined in, getting the young Spark to look at his sister and then at the crew. "Yep, totally," he replied, leaving Florence to just stand there awkwardly. "Oh, but How did the explosion... Winona asked before getting cut off by Florence. A dangerous tech. We accidentally hit a bump and blew a fuse. She stated while gently leaning against Bumblebee. Well, we're glad you're okay. Cece stated, while Francine just shifted her mouth to the side and gave a little, Yeah. Actually, if you have a moment, I'd like to ask you a question. Winona inquired with a nervous smile, leaving Francine to roll her eyes. Do you think that I could give you and your parents an interview one of these days? We're really struggling to gain viewership, and I personally am just a big fan, and it would mean Winona rambled before being halted to a sound within the sky. Turning their heads upwards, everyone watched as a tan and purple-colored fighter jet suddenly soared by, going at high speed. Surprised by this, Jay raised his hand up to block out the sun and get a better look at the craft. Whoa! Since when did jets fly that low? He asked, as they all watched the craft beginning to turn itself around. Must be one of the fighter jets from the base, probably doing a comb-over of the city. Cece rationalized, as everyone watched the fighter jet make a full turn in their direction, looking to now lower. That's not a fighter jet, Bumblebee suddenly exclaimed, getting everyone to turn, the ANN crew of which to stare in stunned surprise. Am I tweaking, or did that roadbug just talk? Andy asked, as the fighter jet suddenly grew closer and closer, now deploying a set of missiles from underneath its wings, designed with the Decepticon insignia on their sides. Upon noticing this, Bumblebee immediately transformed and revealed himself to everyone's shock, while he held the look of fear on his face. That's not a jet! He exclaimed again, with both Winona and Andy staring upwards in surprise, leaving Cece and Francine to immediately start panicking. Is that a robot? The upside-down being asked. Holy shit! Francine bellowed in fright, as she suddenly hid herself behind Winona. Bumblebee, what is it? Joby asked, as the purple and tan jet got closer and closer, and then shot its missiles. Look out! Bumblebee screamed, as everyone watched the rockets fire down in sets of 4s. As this happened, Bumblebee deployed his battle mask and stood in front of everyone, while Jay quickly warped Florence and himself out of the way, leaving Joby to tackle both Winona and Francine, and Elijah to do the same with Andy and Cece. As the rockets made impact, the outside factory greenery erupted into flames as grass, gravel, and metal was thrown into the air. From this, Bumblebee was launched back and went sprawling to the ground, while Joby, Elijah, and Jay quickly got up and helped those who did not have powers. Oh my god! Oh my god! Winona suddenly shouted in horror as the fighter jet soared over their heads and began to round itself back in the same attack position. Jesus Christ! Is everyone alright? Elijah asked as Jay tended to Florence, who had scraped her knees pretty bad amidst the skirmish. What the actual shit? Oh my god! Francine shouted in a panic as Cece took in a long and terrified breath. What was that? Jay asked while watching the jet round itself again. Joby, Elijah, you guys gotta get out of here! Bumblebee stayed with wide eyes as he watched the jet get closer again. Upon looking back at the enemy craft, Joby, Elijah, Jay, and Florence suddenly took notice of the symbol on its wings, one that they recognized from Prime's hologram. It was the mark of the Decepticon. Oh no! Jay whispered as the jet reared down again and began to transform. With rapid metal shifts, a massive, bulky, and fit Decepticon with a yellow head, red visored eye face appeared into its humanoid form. The Decepticon was tall, having broad purple metal arms and legs with a metal-plated chest. His jet wings sealed securely over his back, while what looked to have been a tank's barrel turret jutted out from behind its head. In shock, Joby and the rest screwed themselves back as Bumblebee bellowed out the Khan's name for all to hear. Blitzwing! Soaring down with a devilish smirk, Blitzwing flew right into the Autobot, clutched him by his throat, and slammed the scout into the back wall of the factory, pinning the tiny bot and leaving the others to gasp in horror.
Where's Optimus Prime?
Blitzwing demanded, with spit leaving his mouth. Pushing the Khan's hand down with a punch, Bumblebee quickly swung his legs up and over, kicking Blitzwing across his ugly mug. Grunting, the Decepticon dropped the scout and left him tumbling back down to the ruined grounds. Regaining focus, Blitzwing suddenly flew up and then back down, nearly crushing Bumblebee beneath his foot. Evading fast, the Autobot rolled backwards and activated 2 arm cannons, beginning to open fire upon the large Khan. Snarling, Blitzwing took the blows, but began his assault again.
Where is he?
Rearing his right arm back, Blitzwing swung down and punched Bumblebee upon his left-hand side, before rearing around and uppercutting him to his left. From this, Bumblebee shouted in pain as he was thrown back upon his belly.
Talk, Scout! Talk!
Blitzwing boomed before transforming to a tank and taking aim upon the bot, who looked back up in horror. What the shit is happening? Francine asked with ruined hair, as Andy slowly began to record in silent disbelief. Alien robots! We're trying to help alien robots! Jay stuttered as Blitzwing took a hefty shot towards an evasive Bumblebee. Alien robot cars? CC asked with a small panic, as Bumblebee lunged forwards, deployed an arm blade, and stabbed it into the tank, getting Blitzwing to transform again and throw the Autobot off. That's the gist of it! But we didn't expect the evil ones to show up! How do they find them? Florence rambled as Joby, Elijah, and Jay began the charge of power. Doesn't matter. B needs our help. Stay here. Joby boasted towards the others as Blitzwing activated a large arm blaster and began to shoot down upon B.
Where? Where?
He asked as Bumblebee guarded his face with 2 arms raised. Hey, asshole! Joby called as she activated her back thruster and blasted up and forwards. Turning, Blitzwing was suddenly met with a punch of burning light, leaving him to stumble in shock.
What the?
The Decepticon questioned as Jay warped up and shot electricity from his hands that stumbled the enemy, but not fully damaging him.
What are you? Insects?
Blitzwing asked as he activated a purple sword and began to swing at both Joby and Jay. Nope, just a bunch of people on the right side, Elijah boasted as he ran up to an old train cart, pushed against it with his kinetic abilities, and sent it flying and crashing into the Decepticon, leaving him to gruff and stumble to his knees. Taking his chance, Bumblebee rushed forwards and tackled Blitzwing down, entering a 4v1. As this all occurred, a trio of Decepticons who had joined Blitzwing sneaked their way forwards onto the scene, all being masked in the smoke. These were a trio of cons referred to as Reflector, made up of Spectre, Spyglass, and Viewfinder. These 3 Decepticons were more of intel gatherers than fighters, so they watched the scene from afar. As Blitzwing transformed, they dropped from his body as a little camera combiner. However, they soon found the perfect disguise. Tossed on its side was the now ravaged A&N van from the missiles. Having seen it earlier from the drop, they realized that this had been the perfect tool to sneak in undercover. Nodding to one another, Reflector approached and began to scan the vehicle, while also dragging it away, as everyone else continued to focus upon the battle at hand. Back within the work shed, Optimus now sat upright with his spark exposed. Jumper cables, threads, and all kinds of wires had been connected into his body, while Void now worked alone. Wheeljack, Knock, and Cot needed a break, as they had done most of the heavy work, so Void figured that he would do some more than he had previously. Beside him was Jida, now having been freed from Jane's grasp, leaving it all up to Aunt Vivian. "How you holding up?" the musician questioned, as Prime slowly pulled a bullet shell from out of his arm.
"Better than before, Miss Woods,"
he tiredly answered, as Void carefully approached the Autobot's heart. "A lot of lower shrapnel nearly cut itself into your power source. You're really lucky to be alive," Void expressed with astonishment as he carefully pulled a sharp piece of metal away from Optimus's inner body.
Ironically, Void, we call this a spark. It contains our life essence, our memories, our soul.
Optimus revealed, getting Void to chuckle just a little bit. Huh. Guess that is ironic. Spark's not an uncommon word, so I'll take that as a fun fact. Reaching up with a smile, Void closed the hatches to Prime's chest, concealing a spark, matrix, and allspark in one singular shift.
Void, why were you all willing to help me, my Autobots? Why?
The mighty leader then questioned, as he slowly leaned down to the married pair. Because some of us gotta have a heart nowadays. Besides, you were injured. You didn't attack us, and you explained your business. From one survivor to another, it was the least we could do. To these words, Optimus blinked, nodded, and then sat back, feeling a wave of ease enter his soul.
Void, China, all of you, I am forever in your debt.
To this, Void and Jida nodded, leaving the spark to reach out and pat Prime's chest side, giving a nod as silent thanks. For a moment, there was a calm second of silence and tranquility. A moment between two unlikely species, who could now call one another friend. That sense of peace, however, soon dissolved away.
Dad! Dad! We need help! We need help right now!
Joey suddenly boasted through Void's arm plate, getting everyone to turn and eye it down. Without wasting a second, the spark reared his arm up and answered with a cold sweat to his brow. Joby? Joby, what's happening? Void wordly replied, as Prime sat up and stared with stern, concerned optics.
It's a Decepticon! It's a Decepticon!
Joby shouted before getting cut off by the sound of an explosion. Joby? Joby! Void asked in a shout, as Jida and the others immediately stood on edge. Decepticon? Povnu asked, as her, Vivian with Jane, Nock, and Kot alongside the Autobots all grouped up. Joby! Joby, come in! Shit! Void shouted again with worry, causing Prime to suddenly stand up. Prime, wait! Wheeljack called, but Optimus had already begun ripping his life support cables out.
You all heard her. There's a Decepticon attacking.
Prime boasted as he hopped off his trailer and stood in a firm stance.
My health can wait. We must reach them before it's too late.
Prime exclaimed in dread as Void tried to open his portal to no avail. Stupid beyond frequency! He shouted as the Autobots all transformed. Hurry! Hop in! RC called in a panicking voice as she and the others opened their doors. A Decepticon! Here! How? Wheeljack questioned as everyone began to scramble. Nock, you and Kot watch over Jane! Jida demanded as Vivian handed the cube into Nock's arms. Let's move, let's move, let's move! Povnu called as she jumped in the RC alongside Vivian. As the Autobots all revved their engines, Optimus turned to the side and set his optics upon an old vehicle, one that was forgotten within the corner of the shed. It was an old, flat-nosed semi-truck, an Aurora City Transport service truck, to be exact. A vehicle not only perfect for Prime's size, but the perfect fit to his personality. Wincing, Optimus took a scan, thought his parts began to change, and got ready to roll out. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Francine freaked as the A&N crew, along with Florence, did their best to avoid the disaster occurring around them. Over here! Hurry! Florence beckoned as she crawled underneath a fallen over set of machinery parts as Bumblebee was thrown overhead. We're gonna die! We're gonna die! We're gonna freaking die! CC whined out in fear as Blitzwing took a heavy step over the five of them, nearly crushing Andy in one stomp. We're not gonna die, just follow the girl! Winona spat as they all took cover behind a wall in the battle.
I'm gonna crush you! I'm gonna crush your spark, and then your little friends!
Blitzwing shouted with a dumb tone as he swung his blade upon Bumblebee, leaving the Autobot to transform and dodge. Doing an evading donut, Bumblebee swiftly transformed back into his bot mode and lunged at the Decepticon, giving him a powerful kick in his chest. Grunting and stumbling back, Jay warped back into the fight with a burning fist and punched the con backwards, creating a dent but not fully giving real damage. As the spark landed away with a roll, Blitzwing quickly aimed his blaster down and shot at the ground, leaving Jay to summon a full set of armor over his body, but get blown back entirely. Jay! Florence screamed out in a panicked reaction as her boyfriend went sprawling across the gravel. Jay! No! The Lavin Wolf continued to shout before running out of her hiding spot. Kid, wait! Winona exclaimed with a reach before being blocked by rapid purple blaster fire from an enraged Blitzwing. Soaring around the Decepticon with a thruster, Joby shot upon him with her own arm cannons, looking as though to be a small fly, while Elijah continued to take metal from the ground and launch them at the con in rapid-fire sapphire blasts.
Your little buddies can't help you, Autobot! Tell me where he's hiding! Where's Optimus Prime?
Suddenly charging his wings up, Blitzwing released an Energon electric pulse that sent Joby crashing into Elijah, along with Bumblebee short-circuiting and falling on his back.
Ugh, I'll never talk!
The Autobot exclaimed as Blitzwing glared down upon him with a burning red visor.
Is that right?
He asked before taking aim at Jay and Florence, who were now both huddled together on the ground.
Tell me where the insects become hot mush!
To this, Florence held Jay's weakened body close and began to snarl with bared teeth and a shaken tail.
No! No!
Bumblebee worriedly replied, feeling immense dread fill a spark.
Please! They're just children!
The scout continued to call as Winona and her crew either covered their mouths or stared in horror.
Wrong answer!
Blitzwing stated as he prepared to fire down upon his victims. However, stopped upon the sound of a truck's horn in the distance. Turning around, everyone set their sights upon the thrown-up dust cloud from their battle, and watched in shock as a bright red, white-striped, blue-ended semi-truck drove itself in the view, with both Void and Jida hanging off its side. With smokestacks exhausting in dark clouds, the semi-truck suddenly put its pedal to the metal as the words of Optimus Prime shouted through its speakers.
Here I am!
With a leap, both Void and Jida landed to the ground as Optimus swiftly transformed into a running position. As he did this, RC, Wheeljack, and Jazz came sliding into transforming stops with the rest of Void's crew running out from their seats. As they all readied themselves, the leader of the Autobots shouted and tackled into a now frightened Blitzwing. Landing hard, both Prime and the Decepticons suddenly went toe-to-toe in a violent display of good versus evil, while Void and Jida quickly ran to their kid's aid. Jay! They both called, while Pofnu and Vivian approached a now standing Joby and Elijah. Rolling back upright, Optimus ferociously punched Blitzwing across his face, resulting in the large con to spin and then tackle Prime back down. With grunts, the two crashed through the old factory wall sides and landed hard into another scrapyard of junk.
Leave those children alone!
Prime shouted as he took hold of a chunk of metal from the ground and slammed it across Blitzwing's face. Jay! Jay, are you okay? Jida asked with fear as the young Spark groaned, retracted his armor, and coughed in a mix of pain yet relief. Bruised, but I'm fine, he replied, leaving his parents breathing in relaxation and for the Autobots to help Bee back to his feet.
Optimus, you rebellious fool! Do you think you can truly escape Megatron's wrath?
Blitzwing asked as he swung his sword down in a violent slash. To this, Optimus raised his hand up and caught Blitzwing by his own swing, holding the weapon back mere inches from his own face.
I will give you a chance, Blitzwing. Leave this planet without a word, and you will walk away without a scratch. There is no need for conflict.
Optimus bribed, leaving the Decepticon to bare his teeth.
I would rather die than listen to your words, Prime. Your rebellion will end at our hands.
The Decepticon exclaimed as he began to push his blade down further.
Then you have forced my hand.
Prime spat back as he suddenly deployed his Energon axe and sliced Blitzwing's hand clean off. Shouting in pain, Blitzwing dropped his sword and clutched his hand wound in a stumbling stupor. Rearing back up, Optimus raised his leg and kicked the Decepticon down with a ferocious fury. As Blitzwing fell, he transformed into his tank mode and took a quick shot in an attempt to fight back. Huffing, Prime evaded the blast and activated his rifle, and then took his own shot, blasting a condensed round into the barrel of Blitzwing's tank mode, exploding him back into his robot mode. Howling in a world of hurt, Blitzwing, now without a leg, stumbled and fell upon his back, looking up at Prime with a sense of dread and hatred.
Last chance, Blitzwing. Don't make me do this.
The Autobot pleaded as he raised his rifle towards Blitzwing's spark. To this, the Decepticon roared in rage and lunged upon Prime with a thruster boost. In reaction, Optimus retracted his rifle and replaced it with an orange Energon sword. With this, he let Blitzwing fly into its blade, cutting right through to his spark and delivering a quick and painless death. With sorrow, Prime closed his optics and felt Blitzwing's body slowly power off with one final breath, before his optics went from red to a cold and empty gray. Huffing, Prime retracted his blade and let the massive triple changer fall to the ground with fading colors. Sighing, Optimus silently mourned his fellow Cybertronian, and then looked back over his shoulder towards the Autobots and Novasons.
Guys, over here! Help me lift this wall!
Jazz asked as he began to lift the structure that the A&N crew had been hiding behind. Running up, RC and Wheeljack helped their fellow Autobot do the heavy lifting, while Void and the others knelt down to the scared news crew. Here, take my hand. You're safe now. Void felt to kneel as he reached for Winona. In shock, fear, and amazement, the field reporter took Void by his metal mitt and was helped back to her feet. Beside them, Jida helped pull Francine up, Joby Andy, and then Jay Cece. Gazing upon Void with wide eyes, Winona began to rapidly shake his hand while looking like a completed mess from what had just happened. Oh my god! Holy crap, it's you! You're Void Novason! The Void Novason! She greeted, getting the spark to smile and slightly chuckle upon realizing who it was. And you're Winona Specs. I don't believe we've met yet. Are you and your crew alright? Void asked as Winona continued to rapidly shake his metal hand. No! No, we're not! What the hell just happened? Why were we just attacked by a giant robot tank thing? Who are these robots? What's going on? Francine asked with a mix of rage and fear as Optimus slowly approached in heavy steps.
A Decepticon. Here, on Earth. How were we followed?
The Autobot leader asked as he set his sights upon Bumblebee, Jay, Florence, Elijah, and Joby.
Are you five alright?
Prime worriedly inquired while kneeling down to the group. We're fine. Thanks for saving us back there. We were almost dead meat. Jay replied as he held a nervously tired down Florence within his arms. A Decepticon what? Andy asked as they held a genuine look of unease for the first time in a long time. Evil alien robot wanting universal domination. It's a long story. Jida quickly explained as the Autobots all grew back up in the one place.
They must have found a way to track us. If Blitzwing was able to get here, then others could too.
Wheeljack worriedly said as Prime held an uneasy look on his face. Scrap! They're gonna notice that he's gone offline. They'll send someone! Several of them! RZ added as everyone looked up at the bots. Wait, more of them? Like Megatron and his army? Void asked as the A&N crew all looked up with confusion.
I am unsure, Void. But with Blitzwing down, they'll be sure to send a recovery crew sometime. We need to head back and call for the others. I will not allow for Earth and our friends to deal with this conflict.
Optimus worriedly and angrily stated as he transformed into his truck mode and opened his doors.
Autobots, transform and roll for home.
Prime commanded as the other Autobots followed his orders. Wait, what the hell was happening? What's going on? Megatron? Decepticons? Please, just someone. Winona nervously asked, leading Void to turn in her direction. Like Jida said, it's a long story. If you want, you can come back with us and we can explain everything. Just no cameras. We don't need the public to see these guys. Void offered, as both him and Jida see themselves with an Optimus. Come back? With you guys? Winona asked in shock as everyone else got seated in the other Autobots. Yeah, you gonna follow or what? Void asked again as Optimus revved his engine and pulled out, with the other Autobots following close behind. Turning around, Winona eyed her baffled crew, who at first remained silent in shock, but was soon broken as Andy gestured to follow suit. Well, you have the keys, don't you? They asked, knowing full well what Winona was thinking. Nodding now with a mix of excitement and dread, Winona turned and eyed their van within the smoke. Spinning on her heel, she and the others made their way over, got inside, and then followed after the Autobot crew. However, not realizing that their van was no longer their van. On its back doors, the tiniest Decepticon insignia was presented, as it glinted within the afternoon light. As they drove off, the satellite dishes atop the vehicle began to send a signal in the deep space, all the way back to the Nemesis, Morse-coded to the words, Optimus found. Make landfall for Earth.